Namaskar everybody and welcome to the Geeta Satsang for today. So let us start. I'm sorry, I'm about 1 or 2 minutes late. We'll start. Let us do the prarthana. By the Guru's grace and the will of Shri Krishna, we have all assembled for this Geeta Satsang. May we have their guidance to be able to learn and adopt the things which will help us to grow spiritually. Let us chant the Shlokas. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnaya Vasudevaya Haraye Paramatmane Pranatah Kleshanashaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namostu Te Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullara Vindayata Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Ramanujataya Patram Jnana Vairagya Bhushanam Srimad Venkatanathāryam Vande Vedanta Deshikam Yo Nityamachyuta Padambuja Yukma Rukma Vyamohatastaditarani Trinaimene Asmat Gurur Bhagavatosya Dayaika Sindho Ramanujasya Charanau Sharanam Prapadye. So with prayers at the lotus feet of the Acharyas, let us start our topic for today. So in the previous shlokas, we have seen about the different stages through which a person goes to achieve a status which will take them to the level of Sthita Prajna. Now, here, Krishna in the 60th shloka, he is kind of cautioning Arjuna about how, like we have seen in the previous shlokas, about how it is important to control the senses, to control the mind. Now, Arjuna should not think that it is very easy to do that. So, Krishna is giving him a word of caution and saying that how difficult it is. So, in the 60th shloka, Lord Krishna says, Yatato yapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. So he says, O son of Kunti, O Kaunteya, the senses, the indriyas, are so strong and they are so turbulent that they can forcibly carry away the mind even of a person endowed with discrimination who practices self-control. So previously Krishna has told that somebody who is having all this is a Sthita Prajna. He is a person who is having a lot of control over himself. But now he is cautioning that don't think that it is very easy to control the mind and the senses because they are so strong and they are so turbulent. Turbulent means something which is not still, something which keeps moving in a very vigorous kind of way, in a very strong way. There is a lot of movement. So that is called as turbulent. So the senses are so strong and they are so turbulent. They make our mind also turbulent. They create a lot of ups and downs in our mind and they create a lot of confusion in our mind and they create a lot of strong emotions in our mind, right? And they are so strong and turbulent that even a person who has viveka, somebody who is having discrimination, somebody who is having self-control, even such a person's mind can get carried away very easily if the senses are drawing him away from the goal. So we can understand from this that Krishna is trying to tell that how difficult it is to subdue the senses and the mind. But when these things are so powerful, if we manage to control them, then definitely the person will go further on the spiritual path and he will have Atma Darshana. Now we have seen in the last 59 shloka that one of the ways of getting Atma Darshana is to have control of the senses and the mind. Similarly, the other way around is also true. If you control your senses and the mind, then you will get Atma Darshana. So here, the commentators explain that this is the concept of what is called as Anyonya Ashrayam. That means something which is mutually dependent on each other. So if you can control your senses and mind, you will get Atma Darshanam. So a person who is having Atma Darshanam, the person who has understood the true nature of the Atma, such a person will be able to control the mind and senses. So these are both dependent on each other. So it is like they say, no, sometimes a person is behaving very odd and like he is kind of mad, you can say. Then in the past, they used to tell that, oh, he is having some kind of madness, he's mentally not very stable. Then you get him married. Once he gets married, he will be fine. As if marriage is the solution to all the problems, right? This was in the olden times. Now, of course, people will jump at you if you say that. So they used to say that if somebody is mentally not very stable or something, you get him married and then he will settle down, or he or she, whatever. They will get settled down and everything will be fine. But then there's also the case, suppose somebody is very much mad, then how that marriage can happen? So by getting somebody married, will their madness go away? Or is it only that after the madness has gone away, then the person will find someone to get married to them, right? So, of course, here in Adhyatma, we are not bothered about this marriage, madness and all, but this is just given as an example to explain this concept of Anyonya Ashrayam, that one thing is dependent on other. You can't say which is coming first, which is coming later. So they are both interrelated. So in such a case, how is it going to be possible for us? Now we are not having Atma Darshana, so we will not be able to subdue our mind and senses. And we are finding it very difficult to subdue our senses and mind. So how we will get Atma Darshana? This is our problem right now. So in many places, the Alvars have sung, and in their Prabandhas, they have sung so many different things. In one place, Alvar has said that these Pancha Jnanendriyas, these 5 Indriyas, whether it is the Jnanendriyas or it is the Karmendriyas, the modes of action that we have, these Indriyas are my enemies. And still, I give them place in my house. My house is this body and this mind of mine. I give them space. Although they are not paying rent, they are staying for free and they are troubling me. And yet I have given them place to stay. In another place, Alvar sings that, like in the case of the Gajendra story of Gajendra Moksha, there was a fight. The elephant was in the water and the crocodile came and caught hold of the leg of that elephant. And they fought and fought, and the fight went on for 1,000 years. So Alvar is saying that I don't have just one crocodile pulling me. These 5 Indriyas of mine, they are the 5 crocodiles. And that 1,000 year, what Gajendra fought, I have been in this fight since 1,000 janmas. So he's praying to the Lord that you only have to do kripa on me. Won't you come and save me? You came running, you came flying. Within an instant, you were there for Gajendra to save him from that crocodile. I have 5 crocodiles torturing me from thousands of janmas of mine. Will you not come and save me? So what Alvar is trying to express here is that how difficult it is for us by our own efforts to control the indriyas, to control the mind. But if we manage to get the grace of the Lord, if somehow the Lord, casts his benevolent, his very kripa filled drishti on us, then we will be able to get across. Even the Acharya of Swami Ramanujacharya, who was known as Swami Yamunacharya. So he also in many places has sung of how the Indriyas take us away and what is the solution to that. So in one place he has said that ever since my mind got engaged in service to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, I have been enjoying some totally different transcendental state, some very high state, which is much higher than this normal ordinary life. And ever since I started getting this kind of an emotion and this kind of an experience, even if I think of a sexual relationship with a woman, then I get totally pushed away from that thought. I can't imagine that thought as being enjoyable at all. My face turns away from it. And I spit at the very thought of some low level pleasure like that. So what the Acharya is trying to express here is that if you compare the experience of something which gives pleasure through the 5 indriyas, something of this world, which is maybe enjoyment of any mode, including sexual enjoyment. And if you compare that with the superior kind of enjoyment that you get by being engaged, by keeping your mind involved in seva to the lotus feet of the Lord, then that pleasure which comes from service to the Lord or thinking of the Lord is at a much higher level. So that in that we have the answer to our question. We said we are not having Atma Darshana, so we can't control our mind and senses. Our mind and senses are not in our control, so we are not getting Atma Darshana. Then what is the solution for us? We have to make sure that our mind is put to the Lord. Now, there are many stories which tell about what is the danger when the indriyas start acting on their own, when the mind goes beyond the control, isn't it? So there are so many great people who have done so much tapas, so much sadhana, and still they could not control temptation. They fell prey to that temptation. We all know the example of the great Rishi Vishwamitra. So when Vishwamitra was doing so much tapas, his whole aim was to become Brahmarshi and to have Vasishta declare him as Brahmarshi. So when he was doing so much tapas, at every stage, the Devatas brought something or the other as a temptation for him. And he succumbed. And we know famously how the Apsara called Menaka came and she managed somehow to break his tapas. So if somebody of the caliber of Vishwamitra, somebody who has got so much control over his mind and senses, he also cannot resist, then how difficult it is going to be for us. And how alert we have to be to the idea that at any point of time, our focus can be disturbed by things of this world. The other story is told of Saubhari Muni. This picture which you can see at the bottom of the screen is of Saubhari Muni. I think in one of our satsangs very much earlier, before we started study of the Bhagavad Gita, in one of the satsangs we had seen this story. This Saubhari Muni was such a great, powerful saint that he could control everything. He used to sit underwater and do tapas. So can you imagine somebody submerged in the water and doing tapas? Such was his power. Now this Saubhari Muni, when he was doing tapas in the waters of the Yamuna, submerged inside the river, one point of time he happened to open his eyes. And when he opened his eyes, he saw two fish mating. And he saw that they had a big family of tiny fish. And he saw them having a good time. And in that one instant, he got this desire that, oh, if fish can enjoy like this, why shouldn't I also enjoy that? So he gets up out of his samadhi. He goes out of the river and he gives up all his yoga, everything, and he goes to the king of that land called Mandhata. And that Mandhata has 50 daughters. He goes and says, I want to marry your daughter. Please give one of your daughters in marriage. So the king is worried. He says, who is this old Muni yogi? What he will be doing by marrying my daughters? I don't want to this thing. But he can't take the risk of angering the Rishi. So what he does, he says, okay, fine. I will, but the rule is that my daughters have to agree to marry you. So I will let them all decide for themselves whether they want to marry you or not. So this Saubhari Muni says, okay, fine, I will come tomorrow. Then you please arrange for your daughters to come and meet me. Now, by his yogic power, he has done so much tapascharya, he has so much yogic power. So what this Saubhari Muni does, he converts himself from that old man into a young, handsome person who is having all the attractiveness. So the next day when all the daughters of the king, they see him, when all the princesses see him, they are very happy. Everybody says, I want to get married. So now the father has no option. The king has to get all 50 of them married. After some months, after some weeks, this king wants to see now how this Muni is running his life. So he goes to one daughter's house. And there he sees Saubhari Muni is there with a daughter. Everything is going on fine. They have a good house, all servants, all Aishwarya, everything is there. So then finally he stays there for 2-3 days and then the king leaves. And then he calls the daughter and he says, okay, are you happy, ma? How is your life going on? She says, I am perfectly happy. Everything is good in my life. I have only one problem. So the king says, what is that? So she says, no, my husband is always with me only. He never leaves me and goes. So I'm worried about my other 49 sisters. they must be missing the presence of the husband in their life. He's always only with me. So they are not getting to enjoy his company. That is what I'm feeling bad about, she says. So the king says, okay, he just listens to her and he goes. He goes to the next daughter's house. There, when he goes, he sees one Saubhari Muni is there. There also everything is going on nicely. That daughter also says the same thing. He's always with me. So each of the daughters, each of the 50 daughters tell the same story to the king. And now the king is surprised. Then he realizes, oh my God, with his yogic power, this Saubhari Muni, not happy to enjoy with one body, he has created 50 bodies, 50 forms. And through all those 50 forms, he is enjoying in the company of all the 50 wives. Then, like this, only life continues for many years. And suddenly, one fine day, this Saubhari Muni, he has children, he has grandchildren, and everything. And then, suddenly, one fine day, he wakes up like he's suddenly shocked that, oh God, what have I done? I was in such a great state of tapascharya. I was doing so much penance. And I had achieved so many things. What am I doing here, caught up in samsara like this, enjoying like this with family and children and all this? I have got diverted. I have got distracted from my path of yoga. And then he decides that, okay, I'm not going to have anything more to do with this world. And he wants to go away. And then his wives also say, we will also come into the forest with you. We will also do tapas. So he goes away then to do tapascharya again. So the point to be noted here is that when that desire wakens of wanting to enjoy in this world, for people of Saubhari Muni, he was such a great yogi, then he slipped from that position. But because he has the store of that past, whatever tapas he has done, he is able to overcome and go again. But people like us who are living in normal everyday routine life like us, we are not having any great power at all. So we are constantly lost in this world, constantly in the mode of wanting to enjoy this, wanting to enjoy that. So it is so difficult for us to have control over indriyas. Okay, so these two rishis we saw about Vishwamitra and Saubhari Muni. Now another story is also told of Garuda. We know Garuda, he's such a great personality. He's carrying the Lord himself. He is blessed with the constant seva of the Lord. So how much high is the position of Garuda, isn't it? We can't even imagine Garuda doing something wrong or Garuda having any ordinary kind of emotions like us. But there is a story which is told to explain to us how even somebody at the very high position of Garuda, somebody who is constantly in the sanidhya and seva of the Lord, such a person can also slip up sometimes. So there was once agreement between Garuda and all the snakes that every day one snake would be sent to Garuda for his meal. So one fine day it was the turn of one snake called Sumukha. This Sumukha was the son-in-law of Madali, who is the charioteer of the sun. So this Sumukha did not want to be eaten by the Garuda. So what he did, he went to Lord, to Sriman Narayana, and he said that please protect me. Garuda is going to come and eat me now. So he said, okay, the Lord told Sumukha that you be under my throne. I will take care of you. Don't worry. Now, once the Lord gives his word to somebody that I will protect you, he will protect at any cost, isn't it? So Garuda comes there, huffing and puffing. Garuda has come there. He's very angry. And the Lord says, no, Garuda, you can't have Sumukha. I have granted him abhaya. I have granted him protection. I will not let you eat Sumukha. So Garuda gets very angry. He's in hunger, isn't it? He has his food and he's supposed to eat it. And he is being denied that. So in that anger, which arises from not getting the food that was promised to him, Garuda becomes in that state of anger, he loses sense and he arrogantly tells the Lord that all these years I have been carrying you, and is this what you are doing to me in return? He says. Now the Lord realizes, oh, okay, even this Garuda has fallen prey to this, arrogance and this kind of a sense enjoyment and wanting to get the pleasure of having the snake. So then the Lord tells Garuda that, oh, is it? You think you are the one, and you think you are the one who has been carrying me all these days and all that? Fine, let us see. Why don't you do one thing? Why don't you try to lift my arm from this throne? Garuda says, oh, so what? Big deal. I have been carrying you all these years, your entire body only, and I've been carrying you along with your devis also. So this is no big deal. And he comes there and he, very casually puts tries to lift up the hand of the Lord from the throne on which he's sitting. He's not able to do that. And he not only with one hand, he can't, with all his might also he can't. In fact, when he tries to lift, he gets crushed under the Lord's arm. And then Garuda wakes up and he realizes that, oh God, what is this? What did I say to the Lord? How could I have said something like that? It is by the Lord's grace that everything is happening. If I am carrying the Lord, it is because the Lord has blessed me to be able to do that, that I'm doing it. How could I feel proud? How could I be arrogant that I am carrying the Lord? And he realizes his mistake. So, why this story is told is to explain how, when it comes to something to do with the physical desire for some kind of physical requirement of ours, then even somebody as great as Garuda can slip. It was in the hunger state that he was denied his food. In that state, he got into that arrogant state. So if that can happen to Garuda, what about ordinary people like me and you? Isn't it? So all these stories are told to explain to us how dangerous is the process of getting carried away by the indriyas, of being tossed here and there by the turbulence, by all that, strong wave of the indriyas and the mind. So we must try and control that. And at a young age, what happens? The indriyas are, capable. They can do whatever has to be done. But at that time, the mind is not willing to do sadhana, to focus on the Lord. Because the mind says, what is there in that? I will do when it is old. Let me now enjoy through all the indriyas, through all the senses. What happens by the time we become old? First of all, there is no guarantee that we will survive till old age, isn't it? If at all we do survive also, at that point of time, what will happen now? The mind has become willing. The mind says, okay, fine, I am not for all this enjoyment and all that. Fine, I'm ready to do. I want to listen to pravachanas. I want to sing the Lord's name. I want to go to the temples and have darshan and all that. But at that time, what happens? The indriyas have grown weak. They are not able to cope, isn't it? So then I want to go and listen to pravachana, but I can't hear. My ears are failing. I can't sit for a long time. My legs are paining. My back is paining. I want to go to Tirtha Yatra. I want to go for pilgrimage, but I'm not able to. My body can't cope. So then at that old age, the mind may be willing, but now the indriyas, the body, the sharira is not cooperating. So when is the best time to do the sadhana? When is the best time to turn our indriyas and our mind towards God? Right now. So at this moment, whatever be our situation in life, that will always be there. There will always be things in our life which are going to take priority, which are going to pull us this and that side. But in the middle of all that, whatever little we can, with consistency, with regularity, every day, something we have to devote to get our mind and senses to focus on the Lord. So that is what we should be looking at. So all these stories, why they are told, to again drive home this point, what the Lord is telling in the Geeta, that the senses are so strong, they are so turbulent, that they will carry away the mind even of a person who has viveka, even of a person who is trying, who is very capable of practicing self-control. So whether it is Vishwamitra, whether it is Saubhari Muni, whether it is Garuda, they all had great power. They all had so much self-control. And yet, at one particular weak point, they succumbed, they gave in, they got lost, isn't it? So we must remember these examples and keep it in mind so that we can stay alert to not go on that wrong track. So if that track is wrong, that running behind the senses, then what is the right track? Then what? Now Arjuna has a question in his mind that, okay, Krishna is telling me that Indriya will do like this, Manas will do like this. So you will get carried away with that. They can destroy even a strong-willed person and all that. So is it that Krishna is telling, in a negative way that you will never be able to achieve? No. In the next shloka, Krishna explains, if that is the problem, then what is the solution to it? So here in the 61st shloka, then Krishna tells Arjuna, Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matparaha vashe hi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. They are established in perfect knowledge. Such a person is a perfect jnani. Who is such a person? Who subdues the senses and keeps their mind ever absorbed in me. So this is the solution now. It is difficult for us to control the mind. It is difficult for us to subdue our mind. It is difficult to keep our senses from going here and there. So what you should do, the senses and mind have been given to us. These indriyas are given, the manas is given. So don't struggle to stop it going here, there, everywhere. Instead, you take your indriyas, take your mind, and just focus it on the Lord. Keep your mind always absorbed in the Lord. Then that will become the path to take you towards Him. Don't struggle to say that, okay, I will not watch movies. Don't struggle to say, I will not hear movie songs. Don't struggle to say, I will not spend time in gossip. Instead, using all these senses, you just start utilizing your time in focusing on the Lord. So, here and there, why the senses are running? Because of Rajotamo Guna. So, if we want to get rid of that sense running here and there, we have to reduce Rajotamo Guna. How you will reduce Rajotamo Guna? By focusing on the Lord. Why? Because the Lord is full of Sattva Guna. The Lord's form, the Lord's leelas, the Lord's qualities, all these things related to the Lord are full of Sattva Guna. So, when that is the case, if we engage our senses by clinging always to the Lord, by always attaching our mind to the Lord, then automatically, because we are thinking more and more about Him, like Him, our Sattva Guna will slowly start increasing. We will imbibe that Sattva Guna and our Rajotamo Guna will start reducing. If you remember the story of Ambarisha, we have spoken about this story also in some previous satsang. So in the Bhagavatam, it is described about Ambarisha, who was such a great devotee of the Lord. And then when Durvasa came there and tried to create trouble, the Sudarshan Chakra itself came to the rescue of Ambarisha. It chased Durvasa. Nobody was ready to help Durvasa. Finally, he came and fell at the feet of Ambarisha, only begging forgiveness. So that Ambarisha, when it is described about him, how he was such a great devotee of the Lord, what is it that Ambarisha used to do? And this is what is explained. Ambarisha engaged his mind in remembering the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. So the manas, which is so difficult to control, what Ambarisha would do? He would always engage the mind in smaranam, in remembering the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Then he engaged his tongue in always chanting the wonderful names, forms, virtues, and pastimes of the Lord. So with his tongue, that indriya, what he used to do? He used to do kirtanam. He used to constantly chant the Lord's name, isn't it? He used his ears to hear narrations about the Lord. So that is what we call as Shravanam. He used to hear what his ears were hearing. Always he tried to hear somebody narrating about the pastimes of the Lord, the leelas of the Lord, or chanting of the Lord's names. He used to hear that with his ears. Then he used to engage his eyes in seeing the beautiful deity of the Lord. So he used to constantly have darshan of the Lord in the temple. So his eyes were only occupied with looking at the beautiful form of the Lord. Then the sense of touch, he used to engage that. How? In massaging the feet of the devotees of the Lord. So if the body longs to have some kind of touch, then what touch Ambarisha used to have? He used to, whoever is the devotee of the Lord, he would make them sit, he would wash their feet, he would welcome them, and he would massage their feet and say, these are the feet of the Lord's devotees. And by massaging those feet, he used to give pleasure to his sense of touch by massaging the feet of the devotees of the Lord. Then what about the nose? He used to engage his nose in smelling the aroma from what? From whatever fragrant objects had been offered to the Lord in worship. Like if we are offering the dhupa to the Lord, if we are offering incense to the Lord, if we are offering karpura to the Lord, if we are offering tulsi at the Lord's feet. So all these are objects which give off a very fragrant aroma. So rather than trying to use your nose to smell other unwanted objects in this world, smell the aroma from the fragrant objects which are offered to the Lord in worship. Then how he used his feet. Ambarisha would always do pradakshina, circumambulation of the temple. So he used to use his feet to do pradakshina of the temple. And always his head, he would bow and fall at the Lord's feet and at the feet of the Lord's devotees. So like this, by using all his senses and his mind constantly, by fixing all the mind and senses in the Lord, in the Lord's form, in hearing about the Lord, in chanting the Lord's name, in serving the Lord, in serving the devotees of the Lord. Like this, in this way, Ambarisha subdued, controlled all his senses. So this example has been given so that we also know what is the path to fix our mind in the Lord. So let us also use this same technique. Let us not struggle to pull our let us not struggle to pull our senses away from worldly things by fighting against them. Instead, let us just fix our senses on everything that is related to the Lord. Gradually, initially we will start with small time, but gradually we can do it more and more often. And when we do that, we will find that it is becoming increasingly easier to focus our thoughts, our mind, our senses on the Lord. And when we keep doing that, because the Lord is made up of Shuddha Sattva, so at that point of time, the Lord's form, that Shuddha Sattva, which is beyond the five elements, will pull us towards Him. We are having Rajoguna, Tamoguna, and maybe some small little bit of Sattvaguna. But the Lord is completely only Shuddha Sattva. So He has the power to pull us from the Rajatamatmak state to the Sattvic state. So that attachment we have to develop. If we worship the Lord with our senses, He will control the senses for us. When we visit temples, when we go to a Tirtha Yatra, when we go participate in some Utsava in the temple, when we participate in a pravachan, when we are in the satsang, when we talk to other people about the Lord, then all the time we are keeping our mind and senses engaged in the Lord, and He will take care of everything for us. He will control whatever has to be controlled. Then we don't need to worry. This picture of the Lord is just one of the Archavataras. So how beautiful is the Lord's form? How much glory is there in His qualities? So let us try to focus on that. There are some people who talk about meditation, and they say they are meditating on not a form of the Lord, but on Parabrahma. Or they say they are, concentrating on Shunya or just light. That can be done, but that is very difficult, because to concentrate on something where there is nothing is very difficult. If there is a void, if there is a gap, if there is a hole, there is nothing there. You can't concentrate on that. But if you get an image of the Lord, you have visited some temple or you go regularly to a particular temple, keep the form of that Lord in your mind. And when we meditate like that, by focusing our mind and or sense organs on that form of the Lord, then it becomes easier for us to focus. Also, it becomes easier. And that Lord, it is told in the Shastras, just like if there is a fire in a room, then it will burn everything which is in that room. Similarly, if we keep the Lord, if we keep Lord Vishnu in our hearts, the yogi keeps the Lord in his heart, then what the Lord will do, as the yogi thinks more and more about the Lord, that Lord will burn up all the impurities. What are these impurities? They are nothing but the Rajoguna and Tamoguna that we are talking about. So keep the Lord in your heart, and then He will burn up all the impurities which are there within our hearts. So that is the benefit of meditating, of doing dhyana on the form of the Lord, rather than just meditating on nothingness. So let us pray that whatever we have talked about today, we have seen two aspects. First, we saw in the 60th shlokas that Krishna is telling about how the senses are difficult to control, how the mind is so difficult to control. Even a person who has lot of self-control, even a person who has lot of tapas, even such a person may slip. So does it mean that we are being told that it is not going to be possible for you to control the mind? No, because it is so difficult, the only thing which can match, if you have one powerful enemy, then who can subdue that powerful enemy? Somebody who is more powerful than that. So who is this most powerful object for us? It is the Lord. So by keeping our mind constantly absorbed in the Lord, such a person will be able to control their senses. So this is the message that the Lord has given to us through this shloka. So let us pray that He will bless us with the ability to do this. It is one thing to listen to all this in the satsang. It is one thing to, contemplate on it as from the buddhi. But to be able to actually do it, it is quite difficult. But if we have the grace of the Lord, we must always pray for that kripa of the Lord on us. If His anugraham is on us, if His grace is on us, if He looks on us with His kripa kataksha, then definitely we will be able to do it. So constantly we should keep this prayer in our mind that, oh Lord, you only bless me to be able to do these things. I'm learning about them. I may understand with the buddhi, but to be able to actually practice, I need your grace. You have to get it done from me. So with that kind of a prayer, let us constantly try to engage our senses and our mind in the Lord. So it is now, we are out of time for the satsang. So let us offer Kritagnyata, gratitude, at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna and Guru for inspiring us to start and to join this satsang. And let us pray for their blessings and grace to always be on us. So let Krishna bless us all. And we will meet again in the next satsang. Thank you everybody for joining in. Everyone is saying thank you. Yeah, yes, Ranjini Aure, today is Ananta Chaturdashi. So let us pray that Ananta, Ganesha, everybody bless us so that we have all the ability to do these things. Thank you. Pramila, Ranjini, Bindu, Zarnaji, I think Chudamani Mami is also there. So best wishes to all of you, and let us meet again next Thursday as usual for the satsang. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Ansuyaji.
Yeah?
Ansuyaji. For this Navratri, are you planning to do something?
Yeah, I want to.
Okay.
Do you have any suggestions?
So every time, no, I don't have. I mean, as of now, I don't have anything in my
think
mind.
over and let me know if you come up.
Yeah, if I come up, I mean, if I have some very good suggestion, I'll definitely let you know.
Sure.
But every time you do it, so I just.
Yeah, every time we do, even I was
last 2 years you
remembering
are
just,
doing it, no?
last 2-3 years we have been doing. So I was also remembering yesterday or day before that, yes, it is time I should think of something. So if anybody else also has any suggestions, Pramila, or Ranjini, Chudamani Mami, Bindu, anybody, if you are having any suggestions, then please let me know. Send me a message and we'll see what best we can do. I will wait till about, say, the 8th or so for your suggestions. And then we'll see what we come up with this time, what God suggests to all of us also.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Hansuyaji.
Thank you very much. Namaskar.